This was what did she do? She did nothing. Was Kara reading wrap up? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Maya and this is my 2023 reading wrap up. I did this for 2021 and I did this for 2022 and we're back again for another year of, I wanted to say successful reading, and I guess it is. Any kind of reading is successful reading, but I did read a lot less than I did in the past 2 years and all the years before that. In 2021, I read 41 books. In 2022, I read 50 books, and this year I read 25. That's half of what I read last year, but I am not sad about it at all because I went into this year without a reading goal in mind because I just wanted to take my time and be chill, not pressure myself to read a lot, and also not just live to read. A lot of people have just unrealistic reading goals, or they read so much. I'm like, how is that possible? You know? So this is a realistic what I read in a year. Everyone has their own definition of realistic, but for me, this I'd say is realistic. And I wouldn't consider myself a slow reader because my reading pace is normal, but I usually read only at night. So how often I read is what causes me to be more slow, but not how fast I read. Also, I have stolen my brother's super comfy big chair so that I can sit comfortably and just discuss all these books with you guys. And I have my laptop over here and I pulled up Goodreads on here so I can see every book I read. Some of these books seem so old to me already. It feels like I read them last year or something. Also, do you guys like my new pants? They're Harry Potter Hogwarts pants, and at first I couldn't decide if I liked them or if I hated them, so I put up an Instagram poll and most of you liked them. There is quite a lot of you that didn't think they're ugly and I should return them, but you know, I decided they're comfy, they're only 10 bucks, and they've actually grown on me. Like, I think they're pretty cool and it matches my top. Let's start with January. The first book I read in January is Tokyo Ever After. I really like this book. How much did I rate it? I rated it a 5 stars. Oh, never mind, a 4.75 stars. But this was so fun. It's kind of like Princess Diaries. This really reminded me of Princess Diaries. It's how this girl finds out she's actually a princess of Japan and like her whole entire life changes. It's so fun. There's like a bodyguard romance. The romance aspect actually was lacking a little, but it was super fun seeing how an average girl experiences the princess life. So many new adventures and everything. I loved this. Great way to start off the year. And I'm gonna be making a stack of books on my desk. So each time I pull out a book, I'm gonna add it to the stack. And then we have a stack of 25 or 26 books. The next book I read is Honey and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating. This seems like I read it a long time ago. It feels like 2022. But this was very fun and cute. And I rated this a 4.5 stars. But yeah, this was just a very light and easy read. The next book I started on January 30th, but spent most of the time reading in February, so I'm gonna count this as one of the February books. And that was Renegades by Marissa Mayer. This series is pretty damn fun. I love Marissa Mayer's writing. Her writing and her books are all so fun. I highly recommend her books. Although my favorites would be The Lunar Chronicles, which I read in 2022, and Heartless, which I think I read in 2021. But I gave this book a 4.5 stars, and it's kind of like a secret identities, superheroes, super dangerous powers, people defying their government, and villains. Nova and Adrian are just so cute. And then the next book I read in February was Arch Enemies, which is book 2 of Renegades, and oh my gosh, this is my favorite book in this series. I gave this a 5 stars. Everything in this book was just so good. Like their romance really developed in this book and it just got so much better, and everything got so much better. The characters, the plot, the adventure, the twists. So yeah, I love this. And now moving on to March reads. The first book I read in March was the 3rd book of Renegades, which is Supernova. This was a nice ending to this series. I think I still like the second book more, so I think this is probably like a 4.75, maybe a 5. And the ending, there was like, what is it called? Like a prelogue is at the beginning of the book, but then this is like the after. And it kind of hints that there's gonna be another book series or book about one of the other characters, which I'm so excited about. Like at the very end, there's a plot twist that kind of promises a future new series. So I hope that there will be a new series about that character. Next, in March, I read Starry Eyes. There was just way too much romance. Maybe this should even be NA, new adult book, not a young adult book. There were some parts that made me uncomfortable, so I just skimmed through those parts or skipped them completely. So I don't know why this is advertised as young adult, But the reason I gave it a 2 stars instead of a 1 star is because the story itself was actually pretty fun and the plot was good. And I didn't really like any of the characters, but I did like the main character's mom and the main character's mom's appearance. They made this book more worth it. Next, Twin Crowns. This is just a perfect fantasy. It has everything you want. The plot is awesome. Characters awesome. Romance awesome. Dual POVs of twin sisters that are fighting for the throne and for one crown. Awesome. It also had funny moments. Had me nervous, excited, blushing, staring at the wall. Actually, I don't know if I'd go that far, but the second book already came out, but I don't have it yet. I may get it soon and then read it in 2024. And I gave this book a 5 stars, and I couldn't really find anything negative to say about it, although I feel like it was missing a little extra something, a little extra oomph. So maybe I should lower the rating to 4.75. And the next book I don't have the physical copy of, but it was War of Shadows. This is the 3rd book in the Sunken City series. I really like that series. The first book, it's like the first half of the first book is kind of cringe and like hard to get past it, but once you do, it definitely does get better. And then the second book is just so freaking good. But then the 3rd book, the ending to the trilogy, was kind of a disappointment to me. I give it 2.5 stars. Nothing really happened in it. As I said in my Goodreads review, it wasn't that I didn't like it. It was just that there wasn't much to like. It felt slow and the plot was lacking and the dilemmas were resolved way too easily. So yeah, it was kind of disappointing to be the final book of the series. I still recommend reading the series just so you can get to the second book. And the last book I read in March, I read most of it in March and then finished in April, but that was Anna and the French Kiss. I reread this and I didn't like it as much as the first time. I found more problems with it. The love interest does something dishonest and like not cool. But other than that, I still really like the boarding school experience. Her adventures in Paris. I did like this more the first time I read it. And next is April. After I finished reading Anna and French Kiss in April, I read Sweet Cute. I was recently thinking about this book, how I want something similar because this was a pretty fun one. It's how they have competing businesses. One of them is like super big chain fast food restaurant and the other one is a smaller one and they have a Twitter war and this kind of is secret identities because they don't know who each other are. I gave this a 4.25 and the next book I read is Love and Luck, which is book 2 of Love and Gelato. In Love and Gelato, she has a best friend and this book is about her best friend. I gave this a 2.75 stars. Unlike Love and Gelato, this did not really have any romance at all. There's a character that she kind of likes, but there's zero romance. This mainly focused on the love between 2 siblings and on their sibling relationship, family relationship, which was nice to read about and refreshing because a lot of books usually focus on romantic love and not platonic or family love. But me not liking this book had nothing to do with the fact that it had zero romance. The story itself was kind of boring and there was no plot. The vibes of this were kind of lacking too. The next book that I read, I started it in April and finished it in May, so this is an April and May read. It took me over a month to read also. And that book is somewhere down here. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Kiss of Deception. The first thing on the top of my Goodreads review says, finally done with this book. For the first 100 pages or so, it was fun. She ran away from her castle. She was adjusting to a normal village girl life. It was just perfect little village ambience, her working at a restaurant, and then the whole middle just continued being that same thing. At first it was fine. I was like, okay, let's continue on with these chill vibes, but it was beginning to get a little annoying because nothing happened. And the 2 romance interests, which is meant to be a love triangle, which does not make sense at all, by the way. One of them wants to kill her and then one of them wants to find her and marry her, or like ask her why she ran away from their arranged marriage. The romance absolutely sucked. I hated both of those men. Nobody had chemistry with each other at all. And throughout the whole middle, nothing was happening. She just continued on her village girl life, except every day inside her mind she'd be complaining like, oh, I have to do something. This is so important. My whole entire kingdom is at stake. If I don't do something, people will die. Oh, this is so important. Why do I have to make this choice? What did she do? She did nothing. She just kept worrying and not doing anything and just repeating things that are important that she repeated a million times already, like, we get it, now shut up. And finally, in the last 75 pages or so, something started happening and the character died. I don't really care. and it's left on a cliffhanger. If this is just an ordinary book, I would not pick up the second book, but there's also Dance of Thieves set in the same world, and I want to read that, but before I read that, naturally, I want to read everything in order. That's just the way I am. So I probably will eventually finish the series, even though I don't really want to, but I heard that people said the second book is definitely better, so I'm holding you guys up on that, to whoever said that. And this was a 2.25 stars. Anyways, the next book that I read is Tokyo Dreaming, which is book 2 of Tokyo Ever After. I purposely didn't read this immediately after Tokyo Ever After because I wanted to just have this series last longer because it's so good, it's so fun. Definitely read it. And I loved it almost as much as the second book, and I gave it a 4.25 stars. Now for June, the first book I read in June was It's Boba Time for Pearl Lee, and I read this on my Kindle, so I don't have the physical copy of this. This is a very nice break from dramatic fantasy books. And it was just very chill, really focused on friendship, crochet, relationships, showing that almost everything can be resolved with communication, and how she hangs out with her friends at the boba shop, crochets a lot, goes to school. It's just very chill and mundane and fun and simple. And I gave this a 4.5 stars. I liked it more than I expected. The next book I also read on the Kindle app, and that was 10 Truths and a Dare. This is about the same characters from 10 Blind Dates, and I love 10 Blind Dates. You guys should definitely read that. Such an amazing book. It's a Christmassy book, but you can still read it any time of the year because it's so good and so funny and just so comforting, honestly. So yeah, this book is like a continuation of that, except about one of her cousins, and this is also very good and funny. It had those same family and friend dynamics and relationships. Just such a good time. And I gave it 4.25 stars. And the next book I read in June was Caraval. I loved this, and I actually didn't leave a Goodreads review on this. I said I would, but I ended up reviewing it in a video and then forgot to review it on Goodreads. So I'm just gonna use my memory for this. This is very whimsical and mysterious. It gave off kind of Alice in Wonderland vibe. And also, of course, books with circuses or carnivals are always just, they have their own certain vibes, you know what I mean? Super fun plot, mystery, adventure, and romance was pretty good too. Romance was actually lacking maybe just a little bit, but by the end of the book, it did get better. And I gave this a 4.5 stars. I'm super excited to read the next book in the series, which is Legendborn, I think. Oh no, Legend. It's Legend. And I asked for it for this holiday season, so I hope that I'm getting it because we're gonna open our gifts tomorrow on December 31st. We don't celebrate Christmas, but we do celebrate New Year's and winter solstice. So yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna find out if I got the second book. This was definitely one of my top reads this year. Next is July, and I read The Stolen Ear, which is set in Elfheim, and it's about Jude's little brother. And I expected to like this. I did like the Elfheim vibes, but this book was pretty disappointing, honestly. And this book was very slow paced, very boring, and worst of all, no scenes of Jude and Carden. And the story was not capturing my attention at all, and I did not care for any of the characters. And a lot of people said that Oak was the disappointing part of this story, and I actually don't agree with that. Oak was fine, but the story and everything else sucked. And the only parts that I liked were the Elfheimy vibes, the part where they were in the court of moths, and also the interactions between Ren and Oak. And I gave this book a 2 stars. Next, July/August, because I started in July and finished in August, and that was Kisses and Croissants. This was fun and Paris vibes. She was like in a ballet boarding school, and I love books about boarding school, and something about this book just was really good. Like the ballerina aspect, I was like, my attention was really captured by that because it was just so fun reading about her ballerina life. The romance was lacking kind of a lot, and then at the end of this book, something cliche happened that happens to like almost any ballerina in any book or movie, but at the end it still got resolved, like in the ending log. I still don't know what the word for that is. What is it? Epilogue. So yeah, in the epilogue that did get resolved, and like they still got a happy ending. So yeah. And I gave this a 3.5 stars. I still recommend reading this because the vibes are just so nice, and her lessons, ballet, and everything so nice. My favorite relationship was not the romantic relationship between two characters, but the platonic relationship. She and her enemy became friends, and that was just so nice to read about. The character development was definitely there. Next, this book took me a month to read, so this counts for August and September, and that was XOXO. This is a book about about a girl and a K-pop idol and they cannot be together. But then she has to move to Korea coincidentally, which is where he resides since he's a K-pop idol. And she goes to like performing arts school and he happens to go to the same school. This was super fun and the characters and story kind of reminded me of XO Kitty. And even the titles of these two are so similar, XO Kitty and XOXO. And I gave this a 4.5 stars. It was so fun. At the end of September and the beginning of October, I tried to read this book, but I just couldn't. And that was the first book that I DNF'd in 2023. The first and only book. And that was American Royals. This started out kind of with a promise that it was going to be good, but at like 23%, I just couldn't take anymore. Just couldn't hold on to the promise anymore. Kind of boring. Maybe it would get better, but I just couldn't deal with it. And I did not want to take forever because it was already taking me forever to read to 23%. The next book in October was K-Pop Confidential. Another K-pop book, guys. I might be onto something. I have discovered that I love K-pop books. And this book was just so fun to read about how she trains to become a K-pop idol, and the end was so good but a little abrupt, and I did not realize that there's a book too. One of you guys let me know that and I'm just like, oh, thank you. I might have probably found out later in the future, but now I definitely do know. And yeah, this book was fun, capturing, and addicting almost. From the first couple of chapters, I was already enjoying it, and this book was just so hard to put down. I highly recommend this. And I rated it at 4.5 stars. Maybe I should give it 4.75. Also, after I read these two books and I talked about it in one of my older videos and somebody said, Maya is slowly becoming a K-pop fan. Most percent of my TikTok page has turned into K-pop of their like funny videos behind the scenes. The next book, I started this in October, but I finished it in December. But it was Rebel of the Sands. So this started out amazing. My head is already beginning to hurt from talking too much, so I'm a little low energy from now on. This is why. I loved the two main characters, Amari and Jin. It started out really fun. Them on the run, them on a journey through the desert, little plot twists and stuff. And that was just so fun. But when they finally arrived to their destination, like at the last third of the book, that's where it kind of went downhill for me. I just got a little bored. Even though there was still dramatic things happening and things still about to happen, I started caring less for some reason. I don't know what went down in that. Like maybe it was just me, or maybe something about the writing just didn't captivate me as much anymore. And like too many characters were being introduced and I was like, who are these people? I literally kept forgetting their names, what their powers were, everything. And then when I was almost done with the book, I found out at the beginning there is a cast of characters. Are you kidding me? I literally spoiled a character's death when I was trying to remember who one of the characters was. And I was like, oh, well now it's not important. He's gonna die anyway. But again, the first 2/3 of this was amazing! So like in total, I give it a 4.5 stars. I will be reading the second book. Next, in November, when I paused on reading Rebel of the Sands, I read Eva Evergreen. This is my sister's book, and this is a middle grade fantasy about a witch. A lot of people say this is similar to Kiki's Delivery Service because she also is a witch and she goes out on her quest to find a town and be the town witch there. So this is very fun, charming, adventurous, and lighthearted. It's Eva Evergreen's semi-magical witch because she doesn't have that much power and everyone is like,
oh, you're not a real witch, so weak.
And often her spells didn't work out, but when they did work out, it was like so satisfying to see how she grows stronger. And I gave this a 4.5 stars. It was fun, cozy, and atmospheric. In December, I reread Dash and Lily's Book of Diaries because I read this in 2021. It was just so fun. It was just perfect Christmas vibes, just perfect for December. So yeah, I definitely recommend reading this. This is a trilogy and I reread this and it was just like a very good choice to do that because it really kept up my holiday spirits. And Dash and Lily are just so cute. I love Lily. And the next thing I read in December was The Shadow Throne. This is book 3 of the False Prince series. The False Prince series is so good. The first book especially. The humor, first of all, the humor in the series is top tier. The main character, he's like so clever, humorous, sarcastic. It pleasantly surprised me how he like wriggled his way out of tough situations using his clever words or clever ideas. So The Shadow Throne I feel like wasn't as good as the first 2 books. This was that one book in that series that focuses on the war going on. So this was just like war and their war strategies, rescuing people, stuff like that. So this wasn't the most fun, but of course our main character Jiren is still made it worthwhile because he is just such an amazing protagonist, and I gave this a 3 stars. And now, the last book that I read in 2023 is, where is it? Oh, here it is. Who in the world is Carmen Sandiego? If you know me, if you have watched my videos before, you know that I love the show Carmen Sandiego. It's just so damn good. It's literally one of my favorite shows ever. You guys should definitely watch it. And I got this book, and it's basically like the first 2 episodes of the show, and it was still super fun. It did include some things that weren't included in the show, like some more details, and it was just very fun to read in book form. So yeah, this was a 4 stars. Carmen Sandiego is one of the best fictional characters, period. But as I am filming this, it's December 30th, so the year hasn't ended yet. And what am I currently reading? The book that I'm currently reading is The Night Circus. When I finished Carmen Sandiego, I didn't really know what I wanted to read, so I was just looking at my bookshelf, looking at the books, and something about this just called out to me. I just knew I had to read it. My intuition made me read this. And so far, I am liking this. It's cozy and fun. Some chapters are in the past, and some are future, and I'm not sure which ones are present time, but putting that aside, I feel like with this book you just need to relax and just go with the flow. Some people say it was boring, but I think that it's very cozy, atmospheric, whimsical, and just amazing writing. Also, I think that this author co-wrote this version of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland because I went on her Goodreads profile and her name was listed as an author for this book also. I'm not sure for what part. I think it's at introduction. I can definitely see how this reminds me of this or this reminds me of this. So yeah, I am enjoying this so far. I'm currently on page 106. I'm excited to continue reading this, and yeah, I guess this will be my first book of 2023 since I'm most likely gonna finish it then, because look how thick. Okay, this isn't that thick, but it has like 500 pages, I think. You can follow my Goodreads though to stay tuned on how I like this and on my review on it and future reviews of books that I read. And I also have all my socials linked down below. And now let's look at my giant stack. Although it isn't as giant as last year's. Last year's one was literally ×2 of this since I read 50 books. And here they are, every book I read in 2023. I added blank books for the ones that I read on Kindle. And even though I read only half of what I read last year, this still seems like a pretty damn big stack. Which makes me feel better because this still seems like a lot of books. And honestly, I don't really feel bad at all in the first place because I know that I enjoyed these books and I had fun and I took my time with them. And I wasn't rushing myself to read like too fast. Hope you guys enjoyed my 2023 yearly reading wrap up. You guys can place bets on how many books you think I'm gonna read in 2024. But yeah, and as for my Storygraph stats, here's what percentage of moods I read. Most of them were light-hearted. And here's some more random reading stats. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Hope you guys had a nice reading year too. Let me know what your favorite books of 2023 were. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! And now I have to put these books back.